What is up, geeks? So Rogue One, a Star Wars story, finally came out this weekend, and I got to see it Thursday night, and this is going to be my breakdown spoiler review video. So if you haven't seen it yet, please check it out first and then come back and take a look at this video. So anyway, guys, I really enjoyed the movie. A lot of people are saying that it's the best movie since Empire Strikes Back. Some people are saying it's better than Force Awakens. Others are saying that, it wasn't as great. It was kind of slow in the beginning. And so I'll tell you exactly how I feel in this video. And I think right now I have to say that whatever I say in this video is subject to change because I've only seen it once, actually. By now, usually I would have seen it twice, but I was working this weekend. So I'm still planning to see it at least twice, maybe 3 times. We'll see. Definitely not going to see it 5 times like I did for Force Awakens. That being said, this movie came off a Star Wars movie just a year later. So I think that has a huge effect on, how it affected us as Star Wars fans. And the hype wasn't just, it wasn't there as much as it was last year for Force Awakens. I can say that. For me, I wasn't as excited for this movie, but I still was excited. It just kind of crept up on me, and I was like, I realized, like, wait, Rogue One is coming up soon. And I think the hype train just wasn't, it wasn't just even really that big because of Force Awakens last year. Now, if this came out 3 years after Force Awakens, maybe the hype would have built up by then. So that being said, looking at it as just like a singular movie, it's a great movie, great story. Love the characters. I have to say, some of my characters would have to be Donnie Yen's character, Chirrut Imwe. He says that, that phrase that he says, I am one with the Force is with me. I am one with the Force is with me. I am one with the Force is with me. And it was really cool. I loved his character a lot. It's a cool mystery because we're not really sure if he's Force sensitive. With that last scene when he's walking through and he's not getting shot at until the end, it suggests that maybe he is, or maybe he's just really lucky, And I like how there's a mystery to that. You don't really know if he's Force sensitive or not. He might just be a fan of the Force and he just gets, coincidentally lucky. He's one of my favorite characters in the movie. Jyn, who I actually was a little bit, hesitant with the trailers. I thought she was kind of like, I told you guys I thought she was just Aggie in the trailers, but she really showed her emotional range in this movie, and I thought it was really good, the way that she acted. Definitely, one of the better performances in the movie was Ben Mendelsohn playing Krennic. That was just a great role, cool character. It's a tragic story for him. I mean, he was the one who really pushed for the Death Star. He was really the one behind it, and then, we see with Tarkin, who is CGI, which I'll get to in a bit, he's the one who takes credit for everything. And, now it really changes the way you see Episode 4. And it's all in positive ways. I'll tell you exactly my favorite thing in just a moment. But back to Tarkin, CGI was great in this movie. And I have to say that at first when I saw him turn around, I was like, whoa, they're going to show his face? It could go really bad. It could go, it could be good. It could be really bad. But it was actually pretty good. After a while, even though that uncanny valley was still there, we still knew he was a CGI character, you felt like he was really there. At one point, I just didn't think about it anymore. It was such a well done performance. I'm not sure who was the voice actor, but it was believable. It was really believable, especially with the scenes with Krennic. Very, very believable. And we'll jump to Princess Leia now. Princess Leia shows up at the very end of the movie. Now that, for some reason, I don't know if it's because it's such a short time. With Tarkin, we got to see, we had a lot more to work with. With Leia, it was just that one line and that one scene. Maybe that's why it wasn't as believable, but that last way, the way to end the movie was kind of weird for me because I was just like, whoa, that's CGI Leia. Like, it didn't really, it was a nice little addition. I'm glad that they showed her face because I would have been like, oh, I wish they showed her face, even though when they did, it wasn't as great as it could have been. It was still pretty good CGI. I mean, we're getting close. We're getting really close to breaking that uncanny valley. And I have to say that she was, wow, seeing her really hit the geek spot. It connected the movies so well. I have to say Rogue One is just a great great way to lead into A New Hope. Great way. And so going back to my favorite part of the movie, the best part about this movie, it explains why there's that flaw in the Death Star. Because when we're watching Episode 4, when we're watching Star Wars A New Hope, we're like, wait, why is there just like this little flaw? You just hit this one spot, even though it's really hard to. Just this one spot's going to explode this whole entire huge planet-sized Death Star, this battle station. Just one shot. It seemed a little flawed, right? I mean, maybe at that time they really I'm pretty sure George Lucas had no idea this was going to happen, of course. But the way that they retconned this, the way that they explained it now through canon, through this movie, it's amazing. So we have Galen Erso, who constructs the Death Star. Now, his reasoning for it is because they were planning to make it anyway, without him, with or without him. And so he figured that he'd sacrifice all of his years working on it and create a little flaw in it so that way it can be destroyed easily. Well, yes, easily, but no, not easily. I mean, one shot seems easy, but of course we know in Episode 4 how hard it is to hit that target. Which, again, you know, makes you question, like, even though there was a flaw in it, it was really pretty difficult to get to that. But at the same time, you know, it just makes it a lot better. it explains it a lot better, and I love that. That's the reason for this movie. It explains why you can blow up the Death Star with one shot. And it also explains a little stanza in the opening crawl for Episode 4. You know, the group of rebels, I don't know it word by word, but this like little group of rebels who steals the Death Star plans, and they made it into this whole entire movie. And it makes you question, like, all those little stanzas in the opening crawls. You can make side stories, you know, Star Wars stories, anthology movies out of those little things. And it just shows how big the universe is. And I really love that about Star Wars. Opening crawl, there wasn't any. The way that it opened up, it was like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, like always. And then it was just like, whew, and it had this, the planet, I forgot what the name of the planet, but it was very abrupt. And then later on, you know, that you realize that's just like a cold open, and then you have the Rogue One title, which a lot of people say it looks pretty stupid, like iMovie quality. I have to say that it was a weird font choice, to say the least. I would have rather them kept the normal Star Wars font, and instead of being outlined, being filled in. But, you know, that's a bit nitpicky. I thought it was a cool choice. I think the cold open might be a nice way to separate the episodes from the side stories, these anthology movies, whatever you want to call them. So, with that being said, the music is very reminiscent of John Williams. I have to say, this guy, Giacchino, did really well in replicating that style of music. You can feel a little bit of Force Awakens. You can feel a little bit of the prequels. You can feel definitely the original trilogy in his soundtrack. The only thing is, a lot of people have been critiquing that there wasn't anything that was memorable. And I have to say, there is one song that's memorable, especially like when after the cold open and Rogue One shows with that title, that little theme is throughout the movie, and that actually was memorable for me. So I have to say that he did well in that regard. There wasn't as many themes. Jyn didn't get a theme. You know, they didn't use the Imperial March as often as they could have, should have. But I think he did a pretty good job. You know, considering he's not John Williams. Would love to see Hans Zimmer in that role, doing something in the future. That would be great. But anyway, what else can I say about this movie? My favorite scene, and perhaps one of my favorite scenes of all time of Star Wars, is in this movie. And I think everyone would agree. That Darth Vader scene. It was like Battlefront, you know. We just did the Battlefront live stream. It was, if you haven't checked that out, please check it out. It's the previous video to this. And it was just like that. He force chokes them in the air, throws them to the side. He has that one guy go to the ceiling, and then he kills them on the way to blocking these other guys. He deflects a blaster bolt. Just the way they did it, and it led right into Episode 4. It was so cool. It was like 2 minutes left of the movie, and you had that Darth Vader scene. It was amazing. By far my favorite scene in the whole entire movie. And I have to say that the third act, like everyone's saying, it was great. It was definitely great. Did start a little bit slow, a little bit choppy, I have to say. Usually Star Wars movies can get like that when you're jumping from scene to scene, planet to planet. I like how they kept the, they told you where you were, which was nice because that's never happened. And as far as I know, I don't remember seeing that in any other Star Wars movie. But it was a good little addition that they did. But it still felt choppy. It was confusing a bit, especially if you weren't a Star Wars fan. Being that I am, I think that helped a lot. And I think, the opening crawl, although it's a nice little way of separating itself from the episodic movies, I think the side stories would actually benefit more from it, ironically speaking, because, these movies are out of place, out of order, and it would make sense to have a crawl. So I think they should have done a crawl. Maybe when they do the DVD, they can just retcon that and add a crawl to it. That way, in future movies, you can always have a crawl, but maybe there can be a different way of separating it, like having a cold open and then a crawl or something like that. Doing something else, but at the same time keeping that crawl in there, or maybe even just like a little stanza, and it doesn't have to be like a crawl, just like a little, prelude to the movie, something like that. It would have definitely benefited because a lot of people didn't really know where it takes place in this movie, and it took place right before Episode 4. I love the little Easter eggs. There's so many Easter eggs in this movie, and I still have yet to discover all of them. I heard there's a shot of the ghost from Rebels. I didn't get to see that. I would love to take a look at that again. They say General Syndulla or something like that, Captain Syndulla, and that's a reference to a character in Rebels. I thought they were going to reference Ahsoka, but they never did. That's okay. People thought they did, but it was actually two different people. They were referring to Obi-Wan, who is the Jedi who is like outcast, in isolation, and then they were talking about Leia, because that was General Organa, and he would Bail Organa, and he was saying that he trusts her with his life. And so those were nice little Easter eggs. Of course, we see that those two guys from the cantina, they were on Jeddah. They were lucky to leave before they got blown up. But yeah, those two guys were there. That was a really cool thing. I have to say, there's so much I could say about this movie. I don't know how much time I have left. There's already 12 minutes into this video. I don't want to make it too long, but K2SO, great droid. He's funny. He's really funny. He's like C-3PO, but a little bit more, like adult. He's definitely one of my favorite droids now, for sure. Definitely like him more than C-3PO. C-3PO can get annoying, but he's funny. Cassian Andor. Cassian Andor was a cool character. You didn't know if you could trust him, or he was on the good side, bad side, whether he was a double agent or not. And it was so cool. And every time I saw him on screen, I was like, oh, that guy said happy birthday to me. Shout out again to Joey. Thank you for hooking that up for me. But yeah, this movie, great movie. Now, this is my tentative ranking for the Star Wars movies. It will be subject to change, of course, because I've only seen this movie once. Definitely have to see it more than once for me to really make a concrete, listing. But again, Empire Strikes Back still cannot be beat. That is my first one, number 1. Number 2, still A New Hope, Episode 4. Number 3, still Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3. I know a lot of people are going to be, livid about that, adding a prequel trilogy before any of these other movies. And I have to say, Episode 3 doesn't get enough credit because of the other 2 movies before it. It is one of the best movies in the Star Wars universe by far. After that, I have to say, Force Awakens was still better than this movie. I thought the characters are more, iconic, more memorable. There's a lot more scenes that were memorable. Of course, you have Han Solo in that movie. That's a huge factor in it. Of course, Kylo Ren is great character. Rey, great character. Finn, all of them were great characters. And not to take away from any of the Rogue One characters, they weren't as iconic. I'm sure they're not going to sell as many figures as the other characters in the sequel trilogy. So we have Force Awakens at number 4. Now, here is when I'm not really sure, and it kind of gets a little rocky for me. I want to say my next movie would be episode 6, because of all, you have a lot of memories with episode 6. It's also very iconic. The ending duel. The thing is, like, when it comes to Star Wars with me, I know some people are more into the war. I'm more into the Jedi battles, the Sith battles, lightsabers. You guys know. So this movie didn't have that. Rogue One didn't have that. So that's why it's a toss up for me between Episode 6 and Rogue One. Definitely need to see Rogue One more. I've seen Episode 6 a ton of times, and so for right now, I'll give Rogue One the higher advantage because it was there wasn't as many flaws in the movie. I don't think. Episode 6, there's definitely some flaws in there. But I'll give the advantage to Rogue One for now, and that's definitely because of the hype of the movie, I'm sure. So Rogue One at number 5, Episode 6 at number 6, and then that leaves us with 2 more movies. I would say Episode 1 and then Episode 2. Very close. Those 2 movies aren't really that great, but Episode 1 has the Duel of the Fates, and that's what gives it the higher advantage. Episode 2 has some like weird romantic scenes with Anakin, some of the the worst acting in the trilogy, in the whole entire saga. But that's it, guys. I hope you guys liked my review. I hope you guys comment below. Let me know what you think of Rogue One. Whether you've seen it more than once, and whether you're planning to see it more than 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. How many times do you plan to see it? But let me know your rankings as well. I read all the comments. So thank you guys for your support. Please stay tuned for more reviews here on AJ Collectibles. Embrace, express, and enjoy yourself. May the Force be with you always, my young Padawan.